Right, so when we heard Keir Starmer talk about change, we didn't expect that change to actually be worse than the Tories we just got rid of in any way, but so it seems to be the case. An actual change it still is, technically, so I suppose Starmer did at least promise us this. It's just very unfortunate for a lot of people that this is a change he's actually going to stick to, it seems. Or at least the change is planned by the truly awful Blairite Liz Kendall at the DWP, because she wants to get those benefit costs down. Never mind what that expenditure is actually for, and while she's going to have the bank spying on benefit claimants' bank accounts, she's now looking at another policy so appalling that it is causing such fear as you can well imagine, because not only is she now specifically turning her attention to those with mental health issues, those who will be least able to cope with the pressures she's specifically going to be applying to them, but she's going to target the most ill mental health sufferers of all, those who have been hospitalised with their mental health issues, because she's now going to do something that would probably make Iain Duncan Smith even pause for thought, and that is send job coaches into mental health hospital wards to look at getting those whose priority at that time should very much just be focused on getting better and their road to recovery back into a position of looking for work instead. It seems if you aren't economically productive, your life is worthless to this growth-obsessed Labour government, who think more cuts and even more cruelty are the right way to achieve it. Right, so my opinion of Liz Kendall has always been a dim one, an ardent Blairite as she is, rejected by all but 4% of her party's membership going into the 2015 Labour leadership election. And whilst you might think this is just another old Tory policy that Labour are breathing new life into, it isn't. Even the Tories didn't consider going so far as to try to get mental health hospital inpatients back to the work that they would send job coaches into those hospitals. So that even if the DWP itself under the Tories might have been part of what gave these people mental health issues to begin with, Labour are going to chase them down to their hospital bed now. No escape. I point to the DWP quite deliberately as a driver of mental health problems in this country. They are the root cause of my own mental health issues, for example. I can speak quite personally on this matter. 20 milligrams of citalopram every day as I take, and it's years of dealing with them, not as the claimant myself, but as the carer that has taken that toll. Assessments knowing that if you haven't done enough to fill out the forms right for your loved ones on their behalf, haven't included vast swathes of medical evidence which the DWP never asked for, but won't seek your doctor out most of the time to access either, but without which you haven't a prayer of successfully making a claim. The system is littered with pitfalls to catch people out, even if they legitimately need the help, and when you've paid in, you expect to be supported and not assaulted instead by your own government. That has not happened for years under the Tories, and now it looks like it's set to get worse under Starmer's Labour. But for as much as I can use myself as a cursory example of the harm the DWP might cause, and of course there are many and varied stories of how the DWP have absolutely driven many people to go much further, to take their lives, such has been the appalling way people have been treated under that system run by the Tories. It is set to become so much worse under Keir Starmer's Labour, and as much as I can point to myself and appreciate the issues I've had myself, very easy to talk about myself, I've never been hospitalised with it. So really, in light of this policy move that has been dreamt up by Kendall herself, we do need to look at why people get hospitalised for mental health issues, and for that I've turned to the charity Mind and what they have to say on such matters. If you're experiencing a mental health crisis, staying in hospital might be the best way to keep you safe and provide you with the level of treatment you need. This might be because you need to be admitted for a short period for further assessment. There's a risk to your safety if you don't stay in hospital. For example, if you are severely self-harming or at risk of acting on suicidal thoughts. There is a risk you could harm someone else. There isn't a safe way to treat you at home. You need more intensive support than can be given to you elsewhere. So these are people who have either already been found to be or fear they may be at risk of harming themselves or others, such is the degree of their mental illness, and it is an illness, and should be taken seriously. Labour clearly are not doing that here. The advantages of being in that hospital setting are the access daily to a range of different therapies they might have on offer, people to talk to who are trained, and medication if that is what is deemed the right option for you. The staff are trained to deal with the extremes that mental illness can present itself as, many varied ways that it can. The thoughts of taking your own life or self-harming, they are trained to help you to deal with that and work through it. Your day is structured. There is routine. That helps people get back to a feeling of normality. It also gets you away from the problems you have outside that setting, which may be why a hospital setting to begin with was the best option for you. As you can appreciate, if Liz Kendall can follow you into that setting or send job coaches into that setting, that is not going to help patients whatsoever. I'm also minded to consider if there are any limitations on where these job coaches can go. We don't know yet. Not enough is known about this policy. Does it include the locked psychiatric units, for instance, too, where people are kept within a restricted area for their own safety and the safety of others? Where people who have been sectioned go, will job coaches have to speak to them as well? It might seem ludicrous, but isn't it ludicrous, full stop, to begin with, to send job coaches into a mental health hospital at all? Certainly other people involved in the work of helping people with mental health think so, as this excerpt from the BBC coverage implies. Job coaches could visit mental health patients when they are in hospital to help them get back to work, the government has said. Trials of employment advisors giving CV and interview advice in hospitals produced dramatic results, Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall told the BBC. She said a wider rollout would form part of her drive to shrink the UK's annual disability and incapacity benefits bill. But disability rights campaigners expressed concerns about the proposals, saying they have the potential to worsen someone's mental health. It is ridiculous to try and turn a hospital, a place of care and support, into a business setting, said Mikey Earhart, campaigner at Disability Rights UK. James Taylor, Executive Director of Strategy at disability equality charity Scope, added, "We need to see evidence of work coaches being sent to visit seriously ill people works and doesn't cause distress." I'd be distressed too. The last thing I want to see is a work coach coming in to see me if I was in that setting. I'd be afraid if I didn't go and see them, I'd be sanctioned even if I didn't feel well enough. And that is assuming I've the mental health capacity to rationalise and make such a decision anyway. Can the people working on these hospital wards veto such a visit from job coaches? I doubt it. Kendall wants this to work. She won't want restrictions on that at all, especially when the restrictions that would be appropriate here would be to stop the DWP at the front door of the hospital, quite frankly. The BBC coverage I found disturbing, though, and perhaps it was just the order they broached the story in, perhaps not. But after that paragraph, the story turned to cover what appears to be the DWP's justification for this move. And of course the excuse comes down to predicted rises in the UK benefit bill, rising by a third over the next 5 years, according to the IFS. Just like the Tories, because there really is no difference in terms of the mentality between them and Starmer's Labour, it's all about removing benefits from people who may well need them just to get that bill down. The reason the bill is rising is due to the failure to address the underlying causes of the bill rising. Low wages for one, people struggling to get by as a result of that for another. Pensions are also too low, and if you don't have a work or private pension scheme to supplement the state pension, you need to claim pension credit. All of this has an impact on people's mental health. But isn't it notable, it isn't those shortfalls in general income being targeted, but those who need a bit more help, like the long-term sick, the mentally ill as they may be in this instance, or even the disabled. People that a fair and just society should support and not attack for daring to have additional needs, especially when so many people have become long-term sick as a result of the pandemic. The Tories were slammed by the United Nations over their treatment of the disabled. They've overseen the delivery of one of the stingiest social security systems in the whole of Europe, despite being a rich country. But we know where all the wealth is by now, of course, don't we? But instead of fixing that and taxing the rich to raise the necessary cash, Starmer's Labour carry on in the same mentality of Tory shrink the state thinking, and are now prepared to take that to such an extreme, job coaches could be going into mental health wards very soon, and that will obviously do the complete opposite of helping these people get well and returning to being, hopefully, productive members of society. No matter who you are, where you live, or what your problems are, your value to Starmer's Labour is measured only in your economic activity. And if you aren't active, it seems they're going to come looking for you no matter where you are. And that is going to terrify a lot of people, those with mental health issues most of all, and you can only imagine more and more people will be developing mental health issues as a result of this. Meanwhile, if you don't think even Blairite Liz Kendall can truly be as bad as the Tories, here's a video recommendation from back in July to clear such matters up for you, where Tony Blair himself, in another one of his far too common rare interventions, has referred to the long-term sick and disabled as unsustainable. That's nice of him, isn't it? Recommended viewing if still in doubt right here is your suggested next watch, and I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers folks.